Are you totally different when it comes to sex and copulation? Have you judged yourself out of receiving pleasure? Have you judged yourself into receiving pleasure in certain ways and excluded other ways? Would you like to know more about what else is possible with bodies? Would you like to create confidence in the bedroom and beyond? How has your sex life or lack of it affected other areas of your life? Everyone has the potency to be a sexual superhero. Get ready to listen, sense, and play with the sexualness that is you. Now, here's the host of The Pleasure Zone, pleasure diva and body whisperer, Milica Jelenic.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Pleasure Zone. I want to thank you guys for listening now and whenever you're listening to this, because it's pretty darn cool that you keep choosing to come back, which inspires me to keep choosing to create these shows, even if the topics are crazy, like mechanical sex, because that's pretty crazy. And tonight is specifically called Electric Lovers. This is part one. We're also going to have part two next week, because as I started to look at this, I was like, wow, I could probably talk about just one part of this, part one, for an hour, because I talk a lot, and I think my husband would attest to that. He just puts up with it, and then he leaves for a while, so he doesn't have to hear me talk a lot. Okay, enough of that. And so why do I have this show? It's a great question. Thanks for asking. I have this show because I love talking about bodies. I love talking about pleasure, and it's really fun for me to do that. So one of the things I do in life is I actually work on bodies. It's my specialty du jour for life, actually. It's been my thing that I work on bodies physically and energetically to create more ease in many different ways. So the pleasure zone just seems like a very natural thing for me to talk about. So we talk about all kinds of things on this program. And tonight I have a guest, actually. I have a guest. His name is not on the title because he's my surprise guest. And we were just chatting the other day, and we're both getting a good little laugh about this topic. So I invited him to come and join me tonight and discuss all things mechanical sex when it comes to electric lovers, because next week has a subtitle that's different. So tonight's electric lovers, well, welcome, Mr. J-Man from Caveman Crossing. How's it rocking? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I was about to have sex with a bagel and pop it in the toaster, but I figured this was a good balance to get me into that space, learn the boundaries. Yeah.
So not sex with the toaster, but just sex with the bagel before it goes in the toaster.
I think it's better. I'm so confused about the electrical aspect of it all. They got to iron out the kinks.
I think so. So, as I was looking at this topic, it was kind of funny to me. Like, for thousands of years, we've managed until about the 1800s, we've managed to pull off having sex with people, right? And now, all of a sudden, come the 1800s, with the invention of the first vibrator, all of a sudden, we're having sex with electric things, and those first vibrators were plugged into the wall, which it amazes me that more women weren't, electrified. But it's pretty wild to think that for so many centuries, we got by just fine with bodies and touch. What do you think it's changing for bodies to, move away from sex with bodies to sex with mechanical things?
I think it's just a natural progression. The ease of access is kind of where it's going. Is kind of my sense of it all. And I'm not sure what it was the intrigue with the mechanical aspect. Maybe it's judgment-free. I don't know.
That's true. I mean, you can get a vibrator, and it's not going to judge whether you're wet enough or this enough, or you might judge the vibrator for not working as much as you'd like it to or something. But yes, there is the aspect that it is judgment free, unless they start training these things to judge us, right? And then that would be interesting. It could be like, hey, sexy, which is a judgment, or hey, you ugly bitch. If it had an opinion, then yes, it might change it up a bit. Robots
So,
with an
so you're
attitude.
saying on the end of the vibrator, it's going to have like a little speaker that interacts with you and say, "Hey, I didn't want to go in here." No,
Exactly.
stop it.
Well, I actually had a brilliant idea like that, and it was like vibrators that would actually give you like a playback interaction. So you could put anybody's voice in it. So, for example, you could have my voice in a vibrator going, "Oh yeah, you're doing a good job. You keep going. Oh yeah, that feels good," and like that, right? Like, and I thought it would be a lot of fun to have vibrators that would talk to you. And then I found out that they have ones that you can like put you can put your iPad music or iPod music into. I was like, oh, well, it's not quite the same as one talking to you, but kind of. It could, you could double it up, that concept. So, yeah, it's kind of funny to me, even though I like educating people about sex and the use of different mechanical things. I'm far more interested in bodies themselves than what fascinates me is the use of mechanical things more than personally using them. And when I looked up the robot stuff, I noticed that most of the robots are women. Did you notice that?
I did notice a slight leaning towards the more female dolls, things like that. However, I did notice a few add-ons. You can do the she-male aspect of it. So they're
she-male, nice.
Yeah, there's a few men, 100% men dolls I saw, but it's mainly women-based. But is that tying in that's the market? Like, do you think a lot of women are going out there buying male sex dolls?
No, I think partly for, women, I think the whole sex dolls would be more. So I think for women, you get your vibrator, right? Guys might want more to touch. They might want more. They might want more body to play with. So they might want the boobs and everything else to play with. Where women can be sort of more concentrated, I guess, with the toy. Although personally, I'd rather have the person, right? So it's funny. Like, I'd rather have a full-on body. Probably if I was going to go for something like that, I would go for the full-on robotic man or woman. Like, I'd want the full body, not just. But I get that a lot of people wouldn't choose that because they're thousands of dollars.
They're
a
close
huge
to
investment.
Yeah, the ones I did for research purposes only was
so just for
about
that.
10,000. Yeah, for close to research only. I'm actually going to launch a GoFundMe campaign later.
That's awesome.
But it can be. But I think that's also the cost of the realism and the details, and it's very like arts, like on that one particular site, which I don't know if we want to do a product shout out on these ones, but if you actually look into it, it's actually quite
out for sure.
Yeah, the Real Dolls one, like the craftsmanship on, and even the evolution of how the guy behind that website originally just wanted to make realistic mannequins, and then one thing led to another, and then people started asking, is like, well, can I get little custom designs, and can I get, how anatomically correct is this? Then he's like, well, I had a feeling that this is where it'd be going, and he just embraced that. He just jumped right in and said, all right, I guess I'm making full-on sex dolls here.
Yeah, they're really
impressive. Companion dolls.
Companion dolls. Yeah. In some ways, I was looking at, to me, like in my own thoughts, like what are some of the benefits of a doll over a person? Like there's lots of benefits of a person, the human interaction, obviously, right? You get like actual touch sensation and response from another person. But there's some super benefits to these dolls when you think about it, right? And we kind of talked about that the other night. We were talking about how it's like, because you had a great idea, and we're not going to share it on here, but because somebody will take it and run. Sure.
Your audience can invest in this idea if they want to.
Yes, but it's Jonathan's idea. It's J-Man's idea. So.
And I think there is something to that. I think, with technology advancing, it's only a matter of time before it's more integrated into these dolls. So like you said, there is feedback on it. So if you are, whatever you're doing with it, whether you're just having a conversation, drinking a tea, you can actually have a conversation, and maybe through tapping in with a a Siri type personality that connects into the internet, like you can have insightful conversations with your doll. I think that'd be quite handy. Maybe there's people that do that. They buy these dolls and they don't actually engage with them on a physical sense, but they're just like the idea of having them sitting there and watching TV, and they have their bed and you have your bed, and I think there's a lot of that.
I mean, I can get that. I mean, I have a puppet, right? And she's very entertaining. So I get that, like, you might want to have, like, an actual mechanical doll. I'm cool with having a puppet that sits there that chats with me while we watch movies, and my daughter and her puppet, and, we have conversations with our puppets. But I hadn't considered, having an actual, like, robot sitting there with me. I could see a lot of benefits, though, to having, like, the robot sitting there in your house, so it can even like appear like somebody's always home, right? Because they are so realistic. And if you've got your things timed, right, like they can be used for prevention of like home break-ins, right? You've got your robot sitting around, kind of like in Home Alone. You get your mannequin robot standing and sitting around, and then people drive by and they're like, oh, there's somebody watching TV, right? And they look real.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of benefits.
Mm-hmm. Well, have you ever seen that film Lars and the Real Girl, where he actually, it's a really great actors in it, but this guy, he essentially picks up a mannequin, falls in love with a mannequin, and brings it around with him everywhere, and that's kind of how he processes what he's going through, and he treats it just like a girlfriend. Takes it out to dinner, takes it out to the movies, takes it out all over, and yes, it's quite the interesting film if anyone's looking for a fun date night with their puppets or
puppets or mannequin dolls. I think that's kind of fun because you can have this date and like she doesn't cost anything, but she can be sitting there with you at dinner, looks fabulous. She's basically eye candy and doesn't eat. Like a lot of women that I know will just like try and be eye candy and not eat for whatever reason. It's not that different than a lot of women I know, so it's kind of cool when you think about it. so I wonder, when it does come down to the biofeedback, you can get pretty extreme. So now we've got these mannequin dolls that are looking pretty realistic. It's sort of like this level of like AI, right? That artificial intelligence movie. It's like, as they start to develop and we get biofeedback, and then there's all this other integrative technology that might be put into them to the point where they may actually have, at some point in the future, we might actually have like artificial intelligence, like full on, where, we could be like fully having conversations, like you were saying, not even Siri, but these things might be programmed to be fully automated on every level, to have conversations and relationships with.
Yeah, and I've seen things based on where the market's going with virtual reality, and I think it's only a natural progression because maybe you can have your ongoing personality with you on a smartwatch, and then you bring it back to the bedroom and plug it into this other equipment. But they even have, even you look at the educational tools and how people, like you said, using technology. There's an app out there where these guys are literally licking their phone, learning how to give oral sex better, and based on where their tongue is touching the touch screen. So I think
you sent that to me.
Did I?
I think you sent that video to me. Yeah, I've seen it. It was either you or...
That's
kind
of
how
something
you had sent to me.
I came across this video for research purposes. I'm like your secret researcher.
It's true, you are. I know. You're forever sending me ideas, which I love.
I didn't even get a producer credit. I'm going to have to talk to the team about this.
I really should, right? Be like, this episode was collaborated with the J-Man from Caveman Crossing. Yeah, it's true. I think over the last couple of years, you've probably sent me a good 20 topics. It's pretty funny. Yep, he's the silent R&D guy.
I'm just like text all in the background. My presence contributes.
Yeah, you get credit silently over Skype conversations. Thanks a lot for that. That's
I do it for the fans. You're listening.
Awesome.
We're talking about royalty checks, and then look who shows up.
Yeah, when I've got some royalty checks to share with you, darling, so in there. So we're going to head to break now. When we come back from this commercial, we're going to talk more about these crazy mechanical sexy things that are so interesting to me when we come back.
Many of us have created a lot of limitations around sex and what we are willing to choose. What else is possible beyond what we have already seen, heard, or thought of? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual revolution? Taking the taboo out of all aspects of sex, sexuality, and copulation by tuning in to the Pleasure Zone radio show with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. You'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How long have you been waiting to uncloak your magic? To allow the magic within you to rise and catalyze into an extraordinary life deep down you know is possible. Live Your Magic is a 2.5-day experience that will move you beyond your mind, ignite your body, and activate the magic that is you. If you are ready to radically tap into your desires, generate more aliveness in your body and your life, then join us at a Live Your Magic event somewhere in the world. Go to megansillito.com and click on events to learn more today. That's MEGANSILLITO.
This is the Pleasure Zone with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. Call 815-880-8255. That's TALK. Or Canada 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email at milicajelenic.com. Now back to the program.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Pleasure Zone. I'm your host, Milica Jelenic. Tonight's topic is mechanical sex, and we're talking about electric lovers tonight. And I thought I'd bring on my friend, the J-Man from Caveman Crossing, to talk about this, because we had a conversation the other day that was just making us laugh about robots and robots having, as sex partners. So it just sounded like a fun thing to bring him on, because it's like he's probably done more research for, what were we saying? Research for me. Like he loves doing, he'll pass me over research all the time. So he was doing research on my behalf, which, Lord love you for it. I love that. Lord Tundra and Jesus, thank you so much for that. So we've been chatting a little bit about mechanical sex, like the different ways people have gone from actual touch with people to now as technology increases and as electricity has come into our lives, how that's actually affected our sex lives. Like it's affected us by the use of the original vibrator, that's the original mechanical lover, to now these super sophisticated sex robots, sex bots. And what they can do, and we're looking at like what is the possible future with like artificial intelligence with sex bots. Because what a crazy concept. Like, we could be able to code, if you consider this, like we could actually be able to code a lover with and have them specifically designed to be the body type that we like. Everything like the perfect, if we're really looking at the perfect ideal, and then you could code their personality to be in tune with yours so that it could have that biofeedback that anytime somebody says this is the response they're looking for. And what a great way to have the perfect relationship for people looking for that. And I wonder how many people right now are choosing these sex robots in order to have the perfect relationship. Like, Jonathan, from a like a dude's perspective, I'm going to call you a dude. From a dude's perspective, which is like a pimple on the ass of a donkey, right? But you're more than that to me. And I'm just wondering, would it be more fun to actually have a relationship with a robot that doesn't like argue back? Like, what are some of the other benefits you see other than, we kind of didn't say it, but I mean, like, lack of STDs is a great one too, right? And what else?
Well, you still got to be concerned about getting a virus with a sex robot. It's just you're just going to run a good.
It's just a different virus. Yeah.
Different virus.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of, like you said, perks, because like we said, okay, based on some independent research, you're looking at about $10,000. Cost of a girlfriend, like a serious girlfriend dating, you go out to the movies, that's practically $50 right there. Okay, so it adds up fast. I think economically you're kind of ahead of the game. Although I'm sure there's some maintenance and upkeep costs either way. My concern is once you start adding the future of where these robots are going, and then you start maybe licensing personalities, like we talked about that, getting the very own, let's see, a sex robot AI personality in there. I can see it adding up and being a little bit more concerning, because I think the more involved we get with the technology, it actually creates a lot of disconnection from the physical aspect of it all. I can see if you're up in Alaska and on like some rig, or you're totally disconnected. All right, here's the designated sex bot. Someone.
So you've got like a room with the sex bot for all the guys on board, and you just have to like spray her down, or like you were saying, hose her out, and then you're good to go, right? Next guy goes in to the sex bot room on those ships. I think every ship should have a sex bot.
They could have that at college campuses. Just throw one in some random bed and might reduce some date rates. There you go. See, it's really good.
You know what?
It does sell itself.
I think you're onto something. It's just right there, right? You could have the male and female
really
ones.
Megan, or is that Megan's sex bot?
That's Megan's sex bot, but you can't tell until she doesn't talk back. There you go. It's good. So there's this whole aspect of having losing kind of touch with people, right? With the more we are using technology, there is this kind of idea that we're kind of losing touch with people, and I've heard people talk about like the more you use porn for men, like the more they use porn, the kind of more they get out of touch with actual, like sex with women, and then it kind of can mess up their mind. I won't ask you about your usage of porn and how that's affected you, because that's personal, Jonathan. We can talk about that later. But I'm looking at like for women, for example. I know somebody who had like pretty much her thing is vibrators. Like for years and years and years and years and years, she was like a vibrator user. And then when it came down to like having intercourse, it was actually not. It wasn't that fun for her. She was so used to mechanical stimulation that like human interaction, it feels so different, right? So it was hard for her to kind of be with that person. Yeah, and I'm definitely not going to name names, because the chances are slim that she'll ever listen to this show, but you never know. And it's I just found it fascinating, because I've spoken to the person that was her lover, and his comment on that was like, it was just awkward because you could never really be close to the person because she was so used to just the mechanical stimulation. So it's kind of, yeah, okay, cool. So in the chat room, Keisha's read a bit on that as well. And I think they're great additions, but when you start letting them take over your life, like if you let any technology kind of like take over your life, if you're sitting and, playing video games all day and it's taken over your life, and then you have you basically have just killed yourself in favor of technology, right? And so I think if you're going to like only use vibrators all the time, and I'm a fan of vibrators, I sell vibrators, and I'll even say to people, like, this is not a replacement for like getting a lover. Like, this is just fun. Add it to your life, right? So if we could add these mechanical robots to our lives, like what if the robot is, like, okay, you and your partner are looking to have a threesome, instead of like getting that other person involved or whatever and having the awkwardness of that, you've got your sex robot, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could have fun with that. You could rent like an army of robots and have an orgy if you wanted.
Yeah, definitely. And I like what Keisha said in the chat, how toys are the addition to rather than the substitute for. And it is, like you said, a slippery slope in a lot of different ways. Because if someone does find that perhaps the mechanical aspect takes them to those levels that they just can't get with their current lover, maybe one, they have a bad lover. But it just seems like, maybe finding ways to substitute or involve everyone in. I like what you were saying there just now about, like you said, having the sex doll there, and it's like, oh, so it's kind of a loop around for a threesome there. I think with technology and the way it's going, especially augmented reality and more with technology, maybe there is that space where through distance and the use of accessories or, sex robots or whatever the case is, where someone on another end could perhaps remotely control or have more interaction. So there is like that ability of like, oh, I can tell what you're doing on the sensors on the sex doll over here based on what they're interpreting of these signals through their senses on the other end, on their doll, or whatever the case is. Like leave that up to the IT guys, because we all know they're working on it. But I do like the fact that the natural progression, because I think people have always been fascinated, like you said, with some level of tying in machines in there. I know a lot of women that ride a motorcycle because it gives them crazy orgasms. They just really like that. They like the vibration of it all. Is that
I hadn't considered that.
Their motorcycle? No.
Wow.
Not quite, but it's a machine giving them
True.
that perk. There's a lot of growing men that have gladly put their dicks in the vacuum cleaner.
True.
Why? I'm not sure. I think it's just there.
Have you stuck it in a vacuum?
Yeah, well, oh, totally. Oh, yeah.
Have you really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I love vacuum.
I didn't know you have. I love that you... Have you really? For real?
Yeah.
I don't even believe you.
You don't believe me?
No, because I don't think you'd even need to. Like, you're forever getting opportunities to stick it in real people, so I don't even know why you'd stick it in a vacuum.
I do have a lot of good stories. Yeah.
You do. I think you might have heard them. I don't think you've actually done them, but nice. That was a good try, though.
Man.
Yeah, so the appeal of the vacuum cleaner.
Really?
Well, the vacuum's interesting because we were discussing this about a week and a half ago. My uncle was down, and what else in our family? We discussed weird medical shit because half my family is like nurses, doctors, and stuff like that. So it's like everybody's talking about the weirdest thing they've seen lately. That's the kind of conversations we have. And my mom was talking about a woman that comes into our office, and she's a nurse and she works in the Emerge, and this man had come in with a vacuum like suctioned onto his penis, and it couldn't get removed, and so they had to cut and he couldn't hide it. He couldn't hide the hose, right? It's like they bring him in on a stretcher, hose is like dragging behind, and they have to cut the hose off, right? Well, they don't know where his penis ends, right? So they have to cut up the long way, and it's taking they cut up to about a foot, right? And then they got to cut up the long way.
I can see the guy saying, no, it's a little bit farther than that.
Right, more than a foot. It's more than a foot.
Bigger than that.
And it's going to be extra swollen because now it's like putting it into like a penis pump, right? So they get engorged more than usual. And the guy has a wife. That's the thing. That was the funny part of the story. It's like all he kept on saying to the nurse was, "Please don't call my wife. Please don't call my wife." And it was apparently like
no.
Yeah. It was apparently like a new vacuum, and she really loved the vacuum too. So it was like, oh, he was so fucked. Literally.
I think he just voided the terms of service. The warranty on it is definitely. You can't take that.
Definitely gone there. I hope it wasn't a Dyson. No. Those are expensive.
Yeah, well, if it was a Costco membership, they have a pretty good easy return policy, no matter what.
That's true. You just
But
go, I'm sorry, I stuck my penis in that. Oh, okay, that happens every week. No problem. We can just fix this up for you. Here
we
you
fit
go.
it in this cart with the rest of them. Can we
Yeah,
recommend
it's
this
not
product
like
instead?
it's not like dudes like stick their penis into a blender, right? Like they don't do stupid shit like that. So like but the vacuum's pretty darn stupid. Like I just don't get
Well,
it.
me and this one man, we had an insightful conversation about whisks. And
Whisks.
yeah.
Like that you whisk like other
But this
tell
would be
me
more
now
for,
now curious.
yeah, I'll have to tell you that story another time. I'm not sure how it quite blends in.
Okay.
But
because it's mechanical.
it is mechanical this time.
Was it an electric whisk?
That's depending on the patent we
not,
get. But it is interesting, like you said, a lot of people in the ER and the stories they see, and people just saying like, oh, I got this, I'm just going to try. Oh, the dildo got sucked in, I'm going to put the next device I find in the kitchen to try and get it out, and then before you know it, they're just screwed. Utterly screwed.
Totally. Totally. It's pretty funny. And even like women losing things inside their vagina, right? So losing sometimes, yes, it's true. Like women will lose, I don't know how you lose these things in your vagina, but man, my mom, I guess when my mom was pregnant with me, or she was giving birth to me, she was bored in hospital for a few days after, so she started asking random crazy questions like I would ask. And she asked one of the nurses, what's the weirdest thing you ever found in a woman's vagina? You know, other than like babies, because my mom always thought babies were weird enough as it is. So she's like, well, what else have you found in vaginas? And this is the most disgusting story coming up, guys. So if you don't want to hear it, turn away now. So apparently this woman was a bit of a hoarder, and she also had a fascination with critters. And she had a thing with she had a very bad funk about her. The nurse was like, she smelled very funky, and we didn't know why. So the woman apparently would stick bread inside her vagina, and it would rot and get moldy.
Well,
yeah, you can never unhear this, Keisha. You can never unhear this. Then apparently a mouse found its way into her vagina and burrowed in and was hanging out in there. And when they flushed out her vagina, they found tons of bread and a mouse inside of her. And all she said to the nurses was, oh, there he is. And she wanted to put the mouse back. She felt sorry for him. Obviously, she had a mental disorder of some sort. It's like, mice to begin with make me want to hurl. Never mind inside my vagina. So, yeah, that's pretty mechanically weird. But I'm going to call that mechanical, damn it, because I just told the story on the mechanical show. So somehow I'm going to add to that, she used an electric razor. There you go. It's mechanical now.
I used to do that, actually. Yeah, I'd use an electric razor to shave my partner, and then you'd just have fun with the electric razor at the same time. So there you go. But that's how that story got blended in.
Nice. Thank you. That worked really well.
We saved the show just before break.
That was great. Well, my mom was telling us this story as we're having dinner, and we're eating like pasta with sauce and bread. And my mom's telling the bread story, and I'm like, this might actually make me vomit. I don't usually vomit, but that one was on par for vomit. So, and Ziva's just sitting there mortified. She's like, what? Like, I chose this family? They tell the craziest fucking stories at supper time. So, yes, we do. And that's when, yes, many stories, mechanically strange stories come out. And so what other mechanical devices, other than vibrators and actual robots, are people choosing to utilize on their bodies? Like, I'm sure there are other ones, right? You just think about it for a bit. I know when I was younger, I didn't have a vibrator per se, but, you know, it was big in the 90s that you could get, like, these hand massagers. And I actually bought a hand massager for my hands until somebody was like, yeah, right. And I was like, oh, I guess I could use it for something else. And then I was kind of like, that's okay. But I've always been the person who like prefers physical stimulation more, like hand to body contact. So, but there's absolutely, I don't have a point of view. If you guys are all about the mechanicals, cool. And how lucky are you to be born in an era, to have a body that's born in an era that you have access to this stuff, that if you prefer an electric lover, that you can have an electric lover, that you couldn't have had, you know, you could have had a vibrator, but you couldn't have had a robot lover 25, 30 years ago, right? So how lucky is this electronic generation that loves electronics and technology that they can go out and buy themselves the $10,000 girlfriend? I mean, it's pretty sweet, pretty smart.
You can get it rush delivered from Amazon. Thanks, Amazon.
Right? I wonder what kind of box they come in. Like a coffin in case
it's very much
batteries
coffin.
die?
Like, it looks like a big, it's like a crate, almost like a coffin.
Cool. But obviously she has her own bed to sleep in, or she sleeps in the bed with the guy or whatever. I can't quite imagine like showing up at somebody's house and there's his mechanical robot girlfriend sitting on the sofa. And he's like, "Hi, I want you to meet, Fernanda." And you're like, "What the what?" Fernanda, and she's a doll, and he's all like feeling up the doll. I think I love puppets, man, so that'd be a hard call. I might be like, all right, I like puppets. I'll stick around for a bit.
It'd just be a little bit awkward if they're hanging out by the fridge and it's like, "Hey, Fernanda and I were talking, and should really be interested in a threesome with you right now."
Yeah, see, that I think would be a little far, but I mean, I've gone pretty weird with the puppet, I have to say. I make Kiki flirt with Mike all the time, and he puts up with it. God love him. He's freaking weird, and Kiki's flirted with you before too, and you've put up with that. So it's cool when somebody actually lets you flirt with your puppet, and they might go away screaming later, but at least in that 5 moments they're like with you. They're with you, and they're with your puppet, because it can be weird, I'm sure. And Kiki doesn't have robotic parts in her, right? She's so alive, so it's not as weird. Isn't it? It's got to be less weird, guys. It's got to be less. That's not a red flag. When a woman brings out a puppet, that's not a red flag. That's just like, wow, she loves puppets. But if a guy brings out the robot, and the robot wants to have a threesome with you, that's the red flag. If the robot doesn't want to have a threesome with you, you're good, right?
Well, you're familiar with those sperm donation machines, right? You're just
what? No.
Really? Yeah, it's essentially
about
4 feet
Educate
tall.
me.
Yeah, it's about 4 feet tall. Like, can be pretty much set up anywhere, and it's just like a pulsating hole type thing to simulate the experience. But the idea is that it's a lot better. I think it's almost better. I think that would actually encourage more sperm donation in general. But yeah, they just have them set up. They did. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Like in restrooms?
I guess if you were the restaurant owner and you wanted to, add some value added to the service, I guess that would be kind of neat. Just gonna go wash my hands, but
I'll be back.
I think it'd be good. I think
sperm.
So
where are
at
these
one point
mechanical?
in time, we had telephone booths everywhere, and I think to some extent, if you brought that back, and it's just like
sperm
not necessarily a
everywhere.
masturbation booth, because that's a little weird, but I think it was.
That's weird. You freaking hilarious. That's weird, but the sperm donor booth is not weird. I want to know where's
you're
the
holding
line for
on
you.
to the booth. So there you go. You're just inserting. It's doing all the work. It's okay. It's totally fine. If the machine's doing all the work, it's fine. But if you have to, work up your own little sweat there, and I don't know, how do you balance it all? I'm not too sure.
So can women go into these booths and have the same kind of fun, or like you're gonna have like something to ride in there? Like I want to know.
like a Sibian machine kind of sets up.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think that would be. Otherwise, it's to me, this is becoming very sexist. Like
quite possibly.
Men are the ones allowed. Like that's just not cool, J-man. Like that's not cool. Like if you're gonna have jerk off machines for men all over the place, that's got to be available. Absolutely. This is. Otherwise, it's like then they should just abolish it completely. It's either equal
I think it's because the programmers don't know how to successfully pleasure a woman, so they don't know the codes required. There's a lot more advanced coding versus a guy. It's just 10101010. Oh, he's already come. But it's whereas the machine there, you'd have to have a camera there and a guy in India or wherever, a control center monitoring thing with a heart monitor. It's like, okay, this works. Let's counter spiral this. And,
counter spiral. Number 8, go. Stroke it to the left, faster. You can do it, team.
It's like an arcade booth with like 97 buttons on it, and the guy, a bunch of
wonderful
Japanese kids. There you go. That's how they'll recruit. You're really good with that
recruit
game.
a whole lot of Japanese kids who are going to tech school. I like it. And the kids are going to be in because they'll be like, I want to know about that. You
can actually set up those arcades in Japan, and they just think it's a regular game. They throw quarters in, but they're actually controlling the sex bots in America.
You know what? That's actually brilliant. That's actually really fun. And you could lose if the woman doesn't get off. And if you do get her off, then you're like, whoa, ding, 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 ding. And you might get money. Like, you might actually earn money. Like, so she has to put in $50 for the experience. And then if you win by giving her an orgasm, you get, like, half the money. It's like a little gambling added bonus. This could totally be a movie, but we're forever creating movies, so I think this would be an excellent movie, and people, not only would they watch it, they'd want sequels to it, and they'd then want to be part of it, and they're like, can I be the Japanese kid in the movie, or can I be the woman in America? Like, who can I
be? They introduced that movie, if you've ever seen that Robin Williams movie, Toys, that's essentially what happened. His father had a toy factory. The older brother was in the military. The father died. The older brother came in, essentially militarized all these toys, brought in all these kids to fly these drones and these games, and they were actually controlling actual war machines. So it's the same concept. And actually,
I remember the war machine.
Robin Williams' sister was a robot in the movie, so it practically writes itself. You could change it up. Take that concept, just change it slightly.
Yeah, and in Ender's Game, they did the same thing, right? It's like they pretended like it was a game, but then it was actually like real war. So absolutely, just turn it into a sex thing. Totally.
Yeah, my concern is when these sex bots essentially become too drone, almost like Terminator. They're like get sent out. More Android-based, and then they can kill you.
If you don't please them, they kill you, right? Like they become like the angry whorebot, and then they're like, "Hey, you didn't pay for your services," and then they just shoot you, like, because they're ruthless. They're going to be ruthless.
I think to some extent, if it's the best lay of their life, I think that's a good trade-off. I think there'd be guys out there that'd be okay with dying after that, if it was quick and painless. But
like the sex was quick and painless too, I'm sure. But there's yes, I think this is going into worlds that people have never even like considered when it comes to sex and technology. There is sort of a concept like that in place already, right? With I think it has to be used on an iPhone, and then the other person wherever in the world. So one person has the access to stimulate you wherever you are, and you just put on these sensors or these like vibratey things onto your clit or your nipples or whatever, and they stimulate you through this iPhone app. So that's kind of going on already. I already heard your brain, and I don't think it's appropriate that you send me that package, but you can. It's okay.
Well, and I think that's, like you said, it is an interesting thing. I'm kind of curious where the natural progression will go, especially with, like you said, involving multiple players from distances. I like to see with the future of augmented reality where that technology will go. Because let's say you meet someone and it's like, I don't like your face, I don't like your body, we're going to augment your reality here so you look the way I want you to look like. It's
so tell me more about that. How is that different than virtual reality? Because they do have virtual reality sex stuff, right, where you can put on the sensors on your body and be stimulated. But augmented reality is what are they like planting like like a nanotechnology in your brain, so you perceive things differently, or what is that?
Well, you could do a couple different things. I guess, for example, with today's tech with Google Glass, although initially it was a big fail, but they're coming out again. There's elements at play that I think it just changes the perception. It just changes and filters and overlay. You look at people, scroll through Facebook, you'll see someone who has an augmented reality of like, oh, here's the digital cat, or I'm a wizard, and it's just maps out their face and then presents a different image there. How that would work in a physical setting, like, might be a little bit different, because I know if you're having intimacy with a partner who has a mask, and it's like, especially guys, it's like, sorry, I just spent $10,000 on this piece of equipment. Don't touch my glasses. It might be kind of hard, but I don't know. It's just, I think to some extent you could see both sides. I could see a lot of people preferring to only engage each other, not in a physical sense, but going more into the tech-based. Sure, you can do that here. To put on the power glove and the Oculus glasses, and you just both enter into this virtual reality space, and if it can somehow trigger the right aspects of your brain, I think it would be pretty handy. And especially with some of these films, I think it is a natural progression, even in going back to a Sylvester Stallone movie. Such a great resource for movies. Demolition Man. He gets cryogenically frozen, wakes up in the future. There is no physical sex has been outlawed. It's the population is more controlled in that sense. But if they want to engage each other, they put on sensors. And there's just flashing images of the two people connecting in that space, and it's just more cleaner, and that's just the way it happened. So it's STD free at that point, and then there's no pregnancies going on. So how are they repopulating in an environment like that? It's curious, right? So if it really comes down to it, something like that showing up, how does the population repopulate if they're not even willing to actually copulate? You get your husband in vitro a sex doll. He has sex with the sex bot. It takes the sperms and processes inserts it in you. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be so technical. I think there's some value. Like last week on my show, I was talking about sexual surrogacy, and I think that the sex bots could actually add value to that kind of career as well. It's like you can utilize them for teaching stimulation in a way that's legal, right? So in so many parts of the world, there is like you're not allowed to have any kind of like sexual contact legally. Like it's under, they would term it to be prostitution, right? So it's illegal. Wow. But if you're using a sex bot in the same teaching environment, then you can probably get away with a lot more and still get the value of the information across at the same time. So I wonder if that would be a great method of bringing into, if we had sex bots, say, for example, in grade 7 or 8 or something, and, you're kind of getting your sexual energies kind of kicking in there, that could be an interesting way to learn about a body, to go, oh, okay, cool, this is a body. Everybody gets 10 minutes to go explore this body. It's closet time. Go have fun with the robot. I don't know. It could be interesting. Nobody's doing that, right? It could be a totally different reality with sex education. I think it could be fun. That's my point of view. I'd probably go back to school for it, just for the sake of trying it out. Yeah. I can picture that 10 years, 15 years from now, or whatever the case is. Son, did you have sex with my sex doll? No, Dad. Look, I don't care if you did. I know you did. Just clean up. Just do back. This is whatever. And actually, honestly, like kind of touching on that, there are people out there that are marrying technology, or marrying items, Like, I don't know
They
how
are.
they're getting away with this from a legal standpoint, but
Oh,
it's
they
no
are.
different. And there's people out there that treat
Yeah.
their women like property anyways. So this is perfect. It sort of skips a step. Now you can actually own something.
Then women don't have to be insulted for being treated as an object, because they aren't. It's the object being treated as an object. But there is that, yeah, you were saying people marrying objects. That's called objectophilia, and I don't know when I did the show on that, but I did do one on that. And they are legally marrying these things because they can reword the marriage in a way that it'll work. Because it's till death do you part. And one woman tried to marry the Eiffel Tower, another woman married a train, another guy married a car. It is. That's a whole other variation of mechanical sex, right? Marrying the train and marrying the car, and they do have sexual relations with these things. So the guy will. Yeah, the objectophilia people will like penetrate. Like for example, the guy, he might penetrate the muffler of the vehicle or somewhere wherever he can insert his penis. He'll put it in.
Yeah, and with a nice silicone slipper over top, I think that'd be good.
Anything's possible, right?
Exactly. What a twisted reality we've had the joy of co-creating there. I like it. So, I think at the horror story of it all, like Futurama forewarned that, the dangers of sex robots. But I think on the flip side, as far as safe prostitution and there's a whole bunch of other aspects out there, might be worthwhile. And honestly, I think if you knew your husband was going in the basement and just fucking sex dolls and things like that, would you be okay with that, or would that make you really jealous?
No, I'd be cool. I mean, it's like, hey, Mike, you need to have a break from me and be with a sex doll. It's like, would he be offended if I use a vibrator? No. So it's no different to me than me using a vibrator than him using a sex doll, which we don't have a basement or a sex doll, but it wouldn't bug me. And especially if the sex doll had like teaching capacities to be like, hey, have you tried this? Like, if it's gonna gift him some like newfound wisdom, cool. I'm always willing to try something new, so that'd be cool.
And women are sitting on dryers anyway, so I think, like you said, having that.
And motorcycles, like you said.
And motorcycles.
Yeah. If you get the sex spot on the road. Yeah. This has gone to crazy places, my dear. And I'm grateful that you were on with me tonight, because I was a little tired before we got on, and my body's been a little tired, and I really appreciate you coming on to chat this up with me, because it's such a bizarre topic. I think I would have gone in even more crazy directions in my own head. So you're helping me just stay focused, and I didn't start talking about whisks and things that might have gone in that area. So, and more stories about gerbils and whatever. So, how can the people find you, J-Man, at Caveman Crossing?
Yeah, so essentially it's a new podcast online show for men, not limited to men. So it's just Caveman Crossing with an X-I-N-G, and we're going to be launching here in the near future there, but you can go to the website now and definitely get signed up on our newsletter. We also got Facebook and social media on there. So it's going to be kind of a go-to resource site. We're actually going to be exploring this topic as well, a little bit more in depth, bringing on experts like yourself and other guests, and whether it's how to handle that first date or how to cook a quick and easy meal. We're going to be bringing on a lot of different experts there, so stay tuned for that. So thanks for coming on, and you're allowing me to share a little bit about that and just kind of have some fun, because this is how we talk anyways. I noticed that.
It's true. I know these are just basically our conversations, and you guys just listened in. So thanks for being part of that. Although usually you start taking off your clothes, and I'm like, thanks, Jonathan. How's it get any better than that? Happy day. So
I know, right?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening in, and thank you for being part of this. And join us next week if you're going to want to come back on next week, Jonathan, for part 2 of this. I'll let you know what the topic is. Part 2 of mechanical sex.
Thank you for choosing to listen to The Pleasure Zone. Milica Jelenic will return next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body.